Hey, I want to welcome you to this Friday. I hope that you've had a wonderful week. I know that we've had a wonderful week in teaching these lessons from the book of James. And so we're going to get into our study today. Before we do, if you like it, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe and continue to like it, hit the subscribe button. It will bless us and it will help us to reach more people. Today we're entering into the third chapter of the book of James. And we've been talking about faith and works for the last couple weeks. And now James is changing the subject and he's going to begin to talk about our mouth. He's going to begin to talk about what we say. Now, we need to understand that he's not just making a complete separation here. But what he's doing is he's bringing in the mouth. He's bringing in our speech into this teaching on how to live like Christians in a dying world. That's basically the theme of the book of James. The book of James has a lot of theology in it, which is great. But the book of James really is giving people or giving believers a very practical way on how to win the world. So we got faith and works. Now it's your mouth. What are you saying? So the very first verse of the book of James says this. It says, let not many of you become teachers, my brethren, knowing that as such we will incur a stricter judgment. Now what's James doing? Well, he's saying, you know what? Don't strive to be a teacher. Now, a lot of people put the emphasis there. And really, if you take this in context, that is not the place of emphasis. The place of emphasis is this, that when you teach, you incur or you bring about a stricter judgment. Now, how many of you realize that teachers teach with their mouth? Now, I teach with my hands. Maybe you've been watching me for the last while and you say, boy, your hands are just going all over the place. Yeah, I teach with my hands, but really, I teach with my mouth. I speak words. And you see, we need to understand that if we're going to live effectually in the world that's dying and going to hell, we need to make sure that we grab a hold of our words. Now, James says here that a teacher makes sure that, or he says, let not many of you strive or become teachers. And then he goes on and he says, my brethren, knowing that as such we will incur a stricter judgment. You see, teachers will incur a stricter judgment because of what they say. And that's what James is going to talk about. He's going to talk about the words of our mouth. You know, Jesus said to the Pharisees, he says, you go out and you proselytize. In other words, you make Gentiles into Jewish people. And then he says, and you make them twice the sons of hell as yourself. You see, when a person teaches something, when a person instructs something, you know what? They are telling people something that they believe is to be the truth. But if a person is telling you something that's not the truth, you know what? They then incur the judgment of what you've caused through your mouth. Now, let me just say this. Because we take this in context, he's not just talking about teachers. Now, let's go back. The context, the historical context of this is that there were many believers, Jewish teachers in the church in Judea that James is writing to. And many of these teachers are now teaching people you need to just have your faith and people don't need to say it or they don't need to see it. And so James is actually pointing his finger at a group of teachers. But I don't believe that's the end. Because in the next verse, James says this, for we all stumble. Now, who's he talking about? He's talking about all of us. He's not just talking about teachers now. He's saying we all stumble. But we all stumble in many ways. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able to bridle the whole body as well. James makes one statement, and he's talking about teachers. But then immediately in verse number 2, he says, if we all. He says, for we all stumble in many ways. Now, what does it mean to stumble? It means to trip up. You know, there's things that I've said 45 years ago that I no longer believe. Why? Because I've gotten better revelation. You know what? We've all stumbled. But in our stumbling, the key is not to lay there on the ground, but to get back up. But we've all stumbled in what we say. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man. And then he goes on and he says, able to bridle the whole body as well. You see, James is getting ready. He's preparing to talk to us about our mouth, about our tongue. Even though it's small, it's very powerful. So James is talking about what we say. And if we are able to control or to bridle what we say, you know what? Then we can bridle our whole body. You see, our tongue, the scriptures tell us, is the most unruly member of our body. If you can bridle it, and by the way, the word bridle doesn't mean to kill it. It doesn't mean to stop it. It means to control it. You see, if you bridle a horse, you're not killing the horse. What you're doing is you're bridling it so that you can control that horse, so that that horse will go where it needs to go. And you know what? What we need to understand, that as believers, we need to bridle our tongues. We need to control what we say. And if we will control what we say, you know what? What we say will make a difference in the world that's around us. I hope you join us again next week as we continue this study through the book of James. Thanks for watching us. We sure appreciate it. God bless you.